live for the whole live stream. As you can see right now, President Biden is coming into the House. A lot of baggage. We've got the recent spy balloon.
Which is a fun event all week long.
Out of all things, too, a spy balloon.
Spy balloon,
Yeah. So we've got that coming in, and
he's getting a lot of promises.
Right, and honestly, this is something that Biden, as well as remembering, he's going to take every chance he can here for a victory lap.
Oh, absolutely.
You got to remember what we have next year. We have the 2024 election. We have two Republicans who already said that they're going to be running for president. We have President Trump and we have Nikki Haley. So tonight's going to be a chance for him to sort of tout his accomplishments. And so, honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, State of the Union is always a good time. I mean, honestly. I mean, I know it's a very niche thing to say. Some of you might be tuning in and just tune out in just a couple seconds because, I mean, you're like, it's State of the Union. By the way, we got Kevin McCarthy here, right behind the president here, new Speaker of the House. So that should be interesting. So honestly, I think we're going to be in for a good show.
I'm super interested in what he's going to say tonight. I mean, just reading through some of the statements he's made previously, and just scrolling through his tweets, we see so many things that he has just been continuously talking about. A lot of lead up to today. So
exactly.
I agree. I think it'll be a very interesting speech.
What do you think? What do you want to hear from President Biden tonight?
Well, so he's made he's made some promises, right? He's made I think it's the 4 bipartisan agreements that he's trying to get through. It's mental health. I think it's some more security for veterans, and some other bigger promises like that. I'd love to see a big focus on. I don't know if you saw this, but he's really focusing on honing in on defeating cancer.
Right. Yeah, he wants to invest more into it. He's even tried to pass legislation recently for women's health care, things like that, which also is going to be a big topic, I think, because you have a Republican House now. I mean, the Dobbs v. Jackson decision was a huge decision recently. It's one of the things that supposedly propelled them in the midterms with excitement and things like that. So we're going to be hearing a lot about that tonight as well, I think. So, by the way, for all of those of you who have tuned in so far, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on UVU Review, at UVU Review on Twitter and Facebook. And we also have an Instagram, so make sure you go out and follow us there as well. Make sure you fill in the comments section here. We have a live stream going over here, so we got our Andrew over here. He's not on camera, but we love him so much. He's our tech guy. He's going to be relaying messages to us, to anyone who asks any. So let us know what you think, what you want us to comment on, and we'll just keep going on that. We still got a little bit of time here before Biden comes in onto the podium here. He's currently just doing what politicians do.
Going down the line, shaking everybody's hands.
Kissing babies, stuff like that, right?
Oh, for sure. Well, I have a question for you then.
What's up?
You say you're going to be very interested on many of the positive victory lap things you have. Do you have any criticisms you think he's going to talk about?
Well, you got to remember he's in a Republican controlled house right now. And the big thing I think he wants to address is the debt ceiling.
Yes.
So we hit the limit here very recently. And right now there are negotiations going on between the House Speaker there. You see he's shaking his hand at the moment. The House Speaker and the President on what to do about the debt ceiling. We don't know whether or not they're going to try to raise it. We don't know if they're going to try to do away with it altogether. And the Republicans are seeking some big spending cuts. I mean, you're going to hear President Biden tonight say, hey, we want to see this happen now. You shouldn't be holding us hostage. You shouldn't be holding the American people hostage. That's what Biden's going to be saying, right? We'll have to see how the Republicans comment towards it. And honestly, it should be very interesting. We'll go in live right here because I think it's about to start here. So here we go. Oh, he's starting early.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile, it's okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, please. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress, by the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home.
That's interesting.
Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court,
We'll have to see
and to
though.
you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
Guess the clapping is usually after Mitch McConnell.
I see some people out there standing.
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch? And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another, another term as Senate Minority Leader.
It's going to
I
be.
think you.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's interesting use of language there.
You gotta remember, President Biden is not the best when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of
I want to give
clips
special,
going around the
special
internet
recognition to
some
someone
of
who I
those
think is
thoughts.
going to be considered
State of the Union is
the
more
greatest
about
speaker in the history of the House,
yeah.
Representative Nancy Pelosi. Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations.
You see, there you
We're the
go.
only country
Economic
that has
touts.
emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into
coming
it.
out swinging.
Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all, because of the American people. 2 years ago, COVID
that's gonna be a
shut
big
down,
thing
our
tonight,
businesses were closed,
is,
and schools were robbed of so
talking about
much.
democracy.
Today,
passionate.
COVID no longer
Absolutely.
You had a lot of
controls our
election
lives.
deniers.
And 2
running
years
in the
ago,
last
democracy
election,
faced
so.
its greatest threat to the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken. As we gather here tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together. Came together to defend a stronger and safer
Not
Europe.
100%. I'm assuming he means
Came
burn
together to
pits.
pass
Burn
one of the
pits.
one of the
Yeah.
generation-
That
one
probably makes more
generation
sense.
infrastructure law.
I certainly hope we
Serving
don't have
bridges
toxic
connecting
birds
our
flying
nation
around.
and our people. We
We're
came
trying to get
together
rid of our
pass the most
toxic bird
significant law
pits,
ever,
'cause
helping
they're a
victims
big problem
respond
here in
to toxic
America.
bird pits. And in fact,
The Chinese are sending birds that are robots to our country.
It was important. And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president. From reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral
You do see
Count
a lot of
Reform
Republicans
Act,
standing up
the
for that.
Respect for Marriage Act,
That's
that protects the
interesting.
rights of
Oh, a
married
lot of people
persons who
hesitating
love.
there, standing
My
up.
Republican
Yeah, old
friends,
McCarthy's looking at him
worked
like,
together last
don't you
Congress,
dare.
and we're learning we can work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress
Who
as
does?
well.
Who does?
Thank you. Folks,
Do you have a comment?
you all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. Along the way, something else we lost. Pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change
You know, he
things.
is hitting a lot of
Make sure our
Republican
economy
talking
works for
points.
everyone.
That's
So we can
rather
all
interesting,
feel that
actually.
pride in what we
Because
do.
he's talking about jobs moving
Building
overseas,
an
the
economy from the bottom up and the
manufacturing
middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity.
Significant number
It's about
there. Yeah, I
respect.
mean, he's
If you take a look at
Being able to
his
look
Twitter
your kid in
feed,
the
a
eye
lot
and
of the
say,
stuff
"Honey,
he was
it's gonna
talking
be
about
okay,"
was
and
this
mean
stuff.
it.
those percentages.
Oh, the
Making sure
economic
people
stuff.
know.
He's on a victory lap.
We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low. A near record unemployment. Near record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, with your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where
For
that's
those of you
written.
who are wondering what that was, we're just
Too
talking
many
to our
decades
producer
we
behind the
exported
scenes there.
projects and
Which,
exported
by the way,
jobs.
if you haven't already, make sure
Now,
you
thanks
tune
to what
in
you've
to
all
our
done, we're exporting American
Instagram,
products and
Facebook, and
creating
Twitter
American
at
jobs.
UVU Review. If you like our content, if you wish to support us, make sure you go in and subscribe, like, and comment. We're here taking comments as well, so any comments you wish for us to talk about, we'll be right here.
We'd love to share and to discuss.
Putin's
Absolutely.
unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies.
Now, that's going to be a big
Blocking
talking
all that
point.
grain
Oh,
in
absolutely.
Ukraine.
I mean, everybody,
But
I
we're
swear, is
better
talking about
positioned than any
inflation right
country
now.
on earth right now.
Well, what will be interesting
We
to
have
see
more
is
to
because he's
do.
touting inflation,
Here at
he's
home,
touting
inflation is
the
coming
unemployment
down.
rate, he's touting
Here at
these
home, gas
economic
prices are down
accomplishments.
$1.50
What will be
from the
interesting to
peak.
see is the Republican
Food
response
inflation
to
is
the
coming
series,
down.
which
Not
should
fast
come in
enough,
right
but
after
coming down.
this.
Inflation is
Right,
falling
so we'll have to
every
tune
month
in to
for the
that and
last
cover
6
it.
months. Take-home
But yeah.
pay has gone up. Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way, every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more.
My bad, guys.
These
Smack
chips
the
were
mic there.
invented
He's
in
trying to
America.
blow out your
Let's get that
eardrums.
straight.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
invented
Keep
in
you on your
America.
toes. Interesting stuff.
We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost
need
our
more
edge.
chips.
We're down to only producing
America
10%
needs more
chips.
chips.
We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make
Oh, there
enough
we go.
cars.
Now you
because
see
there
there's
wasn't
some
enough chips.
Republicans over there who are
Car
standing up
prices
for
went
that.
up, people got
Right.
laid off. So did everything.
Now here's the thing
from
about the State of the
refrigerators
Union.
to cell
Occasionally
phones.
they'll zoom into
We
someone.
can never
Right.
let that
Very
happen
specific
again.
people, yeah.
That's why. That's why we
Do you see
came
if they were
together
clapping at least?
to pass the
Well, you look right there.
bipartisan Chips
You
and
notice there's
Science
3
Act.
seats missing there? That's interesting, and they're on the Republican side.
What the hell?
It's a very American-centered speech. Like, I mean, it's hard not to stand up and clap for that.
Folks,
They're very focused on that American dream, that pride
Yeah.
you're supposed to have.
this, but I'm not
He is
changing
making
my
an effort,
view.
I feel, as though.
We're going to make
Right.
sure the supply
Absolutely.
chain for
But whether
America
it's, like,
begins
whether that
in America. The
reaps
supply
something,
chain begins
Right,
in
it's another
America.
story, so
Right.
we have to take a look at that.
We've already created.
I mean, saying numbers and words, always important, but gotta have the backing.
Where's the
We've
action?
already created
Exactly.
800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks
3
in.
billion.
300 billion.
With this new law,
300
we're going to create
billion.
hundreds of thousands of
Okay.
new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country. Throughout, not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of
I don't know if you know this, but they call them factories. We need factories in America. Americans need to know why they have factories.
I like that you made sure to clarify that, emphasize that it was the factory.
Well, many of these people maybe have never worked in a factory, so they maybe needed to specify that.
Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs. Because we work together, these jobs where people
Emphasis
don't
on
have to leave
permanent
home
jobs.
to search for opportunity.
Permanent
It's
jobs.
just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000.
That's always going to be a topic of conversation in a State of the Union address is infrastructure. Infrastructure is always going to be a big thing.
Democrats and Republicans.
Oh, wow. That
They'll
is
tell you what
Yeah,
this
you
means
see.
for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, as you all know, we used to be #1 in the world
Wow,
in
there you go.
infrastructure.
And you do see some Republicans standing up for that.
The United States
McCarthy's
of
sitting
America.
down. You see that? He's
Oh.
clapping, but he's sitting down.
Modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system. And folks, already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports.
Sort of like
in Boston,
America's
Atlanta,
stepdad.
Portland.
That is, that's
Yeah.
it.
I feel like that's the mannerisms he's giving at this speech. You see him leaning into the podium, right?
I'm glad he decided to give us details on what he's focusing on in infrastructure, because honestly, as a casual viewer, you might not just hear the word infrastructure. You have no idea what he's talking about.
Exactly.
We're just getting started.
Casual politics viewer.
That actually reminds me, we didn't introduce ourselves.
And I mean
at
this
the beginning of
sincerely.
this.
I don't think we did.
You know, by the way, guys, just so you were aware, my name is Matthew Drackman. I'm the editor-in-chief of the UVU Review. I run the newspaper here. Brother,
I'm Wyatt Peterson. I'm one of the junior reporters for the news team here.
just barely started up. We hired him, and honestly, I feel like he's been doing a great job. So
I
everyone give a
certainly
chat,
hope so, yeah.
give a thumbs up in
I'll
the
see you at
chat
the
for our
groundbreaking.
friend here, Wyatt. God bless him.
Mom, Dad, I know you're watching.
You better be.
This law,
$1 billion worth of freight across the Ohio River.
this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago.
He keeps specifying
Badly
that.
needed repairs. One of the nation's most congested
I'm really
freight
focusing
routes,
on unity,
carrying
which I think is
$2 billion
super important
worth of
for
freight every
everyone
single
this
day
speech is
across the
reaching.
Ohio River. Get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans and from both states to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks who built.
It seems to be a very underground topic. I feel like I haven't heard a lot of
Sarah
discussion
said
about
she
it, but it
can't
seems
wait
so
to-
important.
Yeah,
10 stories above the
infrastructure's
Ohio
not
River,
sexy.
building that
Let's be
bridge.
honest.
God
I mean,
bless
economic
it.
development due to
That's
infrastructure is
pride.
sexy.
And
But,
that's what we're also building. We're
I
building
mean, no
back
one gets up in the
pride.
morning feeling like,
Look, we're also
let's talk about
replacing
infrastructure.
poison
Right.
slave
I mean,
Let's talk
there's a lot
about the
of cool-
poisonous
yeah.
lead pipes.
Yeah. I mean, but if you're in places like
Hundreds
Clinton,
of
Michigan,
thousands of school and
where
child
that's
care
been a
centers.
very big, heavy topic
Every
of
child in
conversation,
America.
this is a
For
big,
years.
this is a
Every
big
child in America
hitting
drinking
point
water
here. So I mean,
instead of having
that's
permanent
the big.
damage
That's
to
why
their
he's hitting on
brains.
a lot of these stuff, is because it
Look.
hits people in those kind of communities that are
We're making sure.
less off than like someone in the suburbs.
No,
We're making
100%.
sure
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what he's
that
doing up there.
Every community in America has access
And that's
to
another
affordable high-speed internet.
Republican talking point. He's trying to hit Republican talking points here.
To help them do their homework online with their kids.
Zoom in on that camera a
Many
little bit.
thousands we're doing across the country.
Yeah.
And when we do these projects, and again I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it. We're going to buy American. We're going to buy American. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933.
It's a big say. I wonder how that's going to be supported. If
Look at that, McCarthy stood for that one.
Not anymore.
Do you have any
Tonight I'm
inkling of why?
announcing new standards
Well,
require
made in
all
America,
construction
buy in America. This is
materials.
that was a
Which is
Trump
federal
policy. Right? When they
infrastructure
were building the
projects to be
Keystone
made
Pipeline, he
in
signed an
America.
executive order saying that the pipe needs to be built in America. Right? So I
Made
mean,
in
that's
America.
that's a Republican talking point.
I mean it. Lumber, glass, drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks,
So very distraught.
my
by that.
economic plan is about
I didn't
investing
even know
in
we
places
tried.
and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listen to me tonight.
Andrew was giving me the loser sign behind
I
the
know you
camera.
feel it. So many of you
I
felt
felt like
you've
we
just
would
simply been
have fitted in
forgotten.
perfectly with New York Times.
Amid the
Exactly.
economic upheaval of
In the
past
meantime,
few
Andrew, why don't
decades,
you walk over here just real
too
quick,
many
just so
people
we put a
left
face to a
behind.
name over here.
Treat it like they're invisible.
This is Andrew, guys.
Maybe
He's
they
our
should watch it from home.
guy behind the camera. He's the
Remember
guy
the
who makes the
jobs
magic
that went away.
happen,
You remember
and
them, don't you?
thus the person to blame if it's not working
Folks at
right.
home.
So it's all good.
Thank you,
Wonder
man.
whether the
We love him. We love him a lot. We appreciate him.
Yeah, I
for
am
your
doing my
children to
best.
get
but
ahead
If there are
without
any
having to
issues,
move away.
do let me know in the comments.
Well,
or in
that's
the
why
chat. I will do my
I
best
get
to
that.
fix it.
That's why we're
Appreciate
building an
Andrew.
economy
Thank
He's
you,
awesome.
man.
where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back.
I was working hard before we started
Because
broadcasting.
choices we
Get
made in the
everything
last
working.
several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar
There we go.
blueprint to rebuild
This
America.
is the cancer thing you're talking
Make
about.
a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God names happens if your spouse gets cancer, or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you? What are you going to have? You get money to pay for those medical bills? Or you're going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it? I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interests to bring healthcare costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any nation in the world. Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth. For example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It cost the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up
That's
to $13.
going to be a hitting issue there.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
Big
Like
Pharma
Medicare costs
has
and
been
medical
unfairly
costs.
charging people hundreds of dollars,
I think that's one of the
$400 to
most important
$500
talking
a
points
month,
for, I think,
So
making
more.
record
what
profits.
the audience probably is.
Not anymore. Not anymore. So many things that we did
Have we seen him
are
stand?
only now coming to fruition.
Oh yeah, plenty of times.
We said we were doing this, and we
I've been
said we
keeping
passed the
track.
law to do it.
Well, you got to remember,
People didn't know before
standing
it
up
didn't
and
take effect
clapping,
until
or just
January 1
clapping
of
sitting
this
down,
year.
or not clapping at all,
We
that's a
capped the
political
cost of
statement.
insulin
Right.
Right, that's a political statement.
$35
Watch
a
the
month
crowd
for
tonight.
seniors on
We'll
Medicare.
see what they like and what they don't want, and what statements they're making.
Yeah, I
At
watched
one point, in
People
when
are just
President
finding
Obama's
out.
leaving address, someone stood up and said,
I'm
"You
sure
lied."
you're getting the same calls
Right.
I'm getting.
During when he was talking about the Affordable
Look,
Care Act.
there are millions
There's
of
a
other
lot of
Americans
politics that goes behind this event.
who do
That's
not-
why
are not on Medicare,
George Washington never
including
gave a State of the Union address like this. He
200,000
never
young
gave it in
people
person.
Right.
He gave it
with
through
type
letters.
1 diabetes
Right,
need
but with the
these
invention
need
of
this
television,
insulin to stay
this is
alive.
a political event.
Let's
This
finish
is
the
meant
job
to
this
raise poll
time.
numbers.
Let's
This is
cap
meant
the
to do
cost of
those
insulin for
things.
everybody at
And right now, he's talking
$35.
directly to Congress, but more importantly, he's talking directly to the American people. He's selling himself for a second term.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So,
I watched a very interesting breakdown of clapping and
Big
all the
Pharma's
politics
still gonna
around
do
the
very
Super
well, I
Tuesday
promise
event.
y'all.
How
you'll
important
notice,
promise you they're
like
gonna do very
during
well.
Trump's State of the Union, you'll notice
This also,
what's his
this
face
law
from
also
the state
caps,
of
it
West
won't go
Virginia.
into effect until 2025.
I can't remember the senator's
Costs,
name.
out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare. at a
Whatever his
maximum
name is.
of
You can look that up one minute.
$2,000
It's going to bother me.
Yeah,
Pay more than
But
$2,000
he's in a state that
no
Trump
matter how
won by
much
nearly
your
60
drug
points.
costs.
Right? So
You
he'll
know
clap,
why?
all right.
Well, you know,
he wants to keep
many
his
of
job. He's
you,
a Democrat.
Many in my family have cancer. You know the drugs can range from 10, 11,
the,
14,
this person still senator?
$15,000
Yeah.
for the cancer drugs.
Joe
Drug
Manchin,
prices
that's his
rise
name.
faster
There you
than
go.
inflation. Drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare.
You'll notice that no Republicans clapping at that. You know why?
That's-
They're
Bringing
touching on the
down-
debt ceiling.
Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money, it cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars, by hundreds of billions of dollars. Because these prescription drugs are drugs purchased
Here we go.
by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why would we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm not going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of prescription drugs, I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions or saving.
So he's trying to sell
$800 a
the
year on
Democratic
premiums.
health care plan there. You'll notice that a lot of those Republicans are not standing up for that.
And the benefit expires in
Yeah, I'm not-
2025.
You gotta remember there's socialized
So my
medicine there.
plea to some
And
of
so
you
those of
is
you who
to
have the
join
lateness
it.
right now, that
Let's
he's
finish
basically
this
talking
job
about
and make these
Medicare and
savings
medical
permanent.
expenses in the Affordable Care Act.
Expand coverage.
And
of
he's also
Medicaid.
eventually going to get to the debt ceiling here.
Look, the Inflation Reduction Act is also.
Now he's going to be
the most
touching on
significant
climate
investment
change.
Ever
Another big
in
Democratic
climate
talking point here.
change. Ever. Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs,
The state of
leading the
Missouri.
world to a clean energy
Missouri.
future. I visited the devastating aftermath.
Let us know in the
of
comments, is
floods,
it
droughts,
Missouri
storms, and
or Missouri?
wildfires. From Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border.
Andrew just gave me the look here.
More timber has been burned than I've
Is it
observed from
Arkansas or
helicopters
Arkansas?
than the entire
You let
state
us
of
know.
Missouri.
I feel like most of the
We don't have global warming.
It's Arkansas, right?
In
Well, that's if
addition to
Kansas
emergency
was
recovery,
socialist.
from
Like, it's
Puerto Rico to
Arkansas.
Florida to Idaho, we're building for the long
Do not
term.
cancel me for that joke. All right, thank you very much.
better delete your
Major
Twitter after
storms
this.
will not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems will stand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging
Andrew,
stations.
are we up to date on the
installed across
feed there?
country by
Well,
tens
us
of
watching it,
thousands of
they're
IBEW workers.
synced there.
And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax
Perfect.
credits
Okay, just making sure.
to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances.
Awesome.
Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat.
Oh, you hear that?
shouts.
Well,
We have
because
an
you're
obligation
going to remember
to
they're going to be
ourselves and to our
supporting oil
children
and gas for a
grandchildren
while.
to confront it. I'm proud of how America at last is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No.
Talking
we
taxes
do.
here. Is that Maxine Waters in
But
the
there's
front row
so
there?
much more to do.
No, that's not her.
We got to finish the job. We pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin. Look, I'm a capitalist.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I'm a
there you go.
capitalist, but pay your fair share.
That's a bold statement to make.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair.
A
It
bold
is not fair.
Statement to
statement.
make. Yeah.
You hear that booing?
Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%.
Now, if that reciprocates,
than
that's
a
something
nurse
we also have
pays.
to watch here.
And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will
You're not going to
pay
get
an
one
additional
Republican
penny in taxes.
clapping to that.
Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal.
He's
for
taking a
executive
lot more of a
minimum tax.
casual approach to this.
You know,
Like, he knows that.
there's
Think
1,000
about it.
billionaires in
Think
America.
about it,
Talking
right?
about 600
He's talking a lot like, okay, this is what we need to be doing. Guys, come on. Like I said, America's stepdad is going over here. And he's just like,
I mean it.
we
Think
mean it.
about it.
We mean it. That's what he's going for here.
I mean, look. I know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits record profits. Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis.
Well,
I
talking
think
about
it's
oil, he's
outrageous.
looking at a very specific
Ooh.
side. Oh, wow.
They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production.
He's going to get
And
hit
when I
on
talk
that.
to a couple of them, they say we're afraid
We're only
going to
need oil for another 10 years. Every oil, coal, and fossil fuel worker just went like,
I said, we're going to need oil.
what'd you say?
For at least
Yeah,
another
no,
decade.
it's going to be.
And that's going to exceed.
oil barons be like, yeah.
Beyond that,
I mean, that right there is going to be the Republican response.
production.
Right then and there.
If
I mean,
they
I feel
had,
like
in
that's the
fact,
biggest
invested in
Republican
production to keep
argument
gas prices
against
down. Instead,
President Biden's
they use the
like,
record
culture,
profits to buy back
not
their own
culture,
stock.
climate agenda.
Rewarding the CEOs
mean,
and shareholders.
He's trying to appeal to those kind of
Corporations ought to
workers,
do
those
the right
blue-collar
thing.
workers who've kept the lights on
That's
for
why I
years.
propose we
right?
quadruple the tax
And
on corporate
not, this
stock
isn't to
buybacks
say that
and
there
encourage
isn't needed action there, but
long-term
the
investment.
way he's approaching this issue is like, we're going to only
They'll
need it
still
for another
make
10 years,
considerable
guys.
profit.
Don't worry. You're going to be secure for another 10 years.
Let's finish the job
10
and
years?
close the loophole to allow very wealthy to avoid
You have a
paying
child
their
that's born.
taxes.
10
Instead
years
of
from now,
cutting the number of
right?
audits for wealthy
He's barely in, what, the
I
3rd or
just signed
4th
a law to
grade?
reduce the deficit by
How you gonna support your family?
I mean, the fact that he's saying that
$114
right
cracking
after talking
down
about
on
jobs
wealthy
and creating
tax
thousands
cheats.
of jobs and security seems to be
That's being
very-
fiscally responsible.
very purposeful.
In the last 2
Let's go
years,
into what he's saying here.
my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion. The largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4
Oh,
years in a row.
there's a hit against Trump
Because
there.
those record deficits, no president added
Quite
more to
frankly,
the national
Biden, I
debt.
think you are a loser.
In any 4
Okay,
years
many
of my
people say
presidency,
this. Many people say this, Biden. But many people think you're a loser.
By the way, that's my
It took
impression of
over
President
200
Trump. That's not
years
my
to
belief.
accumulate.
All right, that was a joke.
added by
For
just
anyone
one
who's watching out there
administration
who's
alone,
offended
the
by
last
that joke, I don't
They're the facts. Check it
All
out.
right, so just to let you know.
Check
That's a
it
good
out.
impression. A lot of practice, right?
How did
Lots of
Congress
practice, lots of
respond to that
practice.
debt? They did
Got
the right
text
thing. They
messages that were
invested the debt
echoing
ceiling 3 times without
Over here.
preconditions
Are we
or
echoing
crisis.
over here, Andrew?
They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit.
Sorry for the feedback on that.
It's
That's a little better.
What if we just go this way a little bit? Can you still see us on there? If we were like a little separated.
So some of my Republican friends.
Oh, wow. Wait, what did he say?
Hold me hostage, I get it. Unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their
He's
fair share,
laughing.
some
Oh, wow, that's very
Republicans-
interesting.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal.
Ooh.
Oh,
That means Congress doesn't
see where he turns.
vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
Oh, he's talking about cutting like
You know,
Medicare,
it means
Social
if-
Security, things like that.
If Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals.
Right.
I'm
So
not-
yeah, he's talking about the
I'm
debt
not
now.
naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
That is really interesting. That's really bad etiquette on the part of Congress there.
The idea is
Pure booing
that
at
we're
it.
not
Yeah,
gonna
you
be-
wouldn't see-
we're not
10,
gonna be
15
moved
years
into
ago, you wouldn't
being
have seen
threatened
that.
with
Yeah.
default
15
on
years ago,
if
you wouldn't have
don't
seen that.
respond.
That's very
Folks.
recent. And it just shows the divisiveness of the Congress at the moment, right? And so we're looking at this in a lot of different ways. So you'll have to keep looking here. I mean, honestly, you'll see McCarthy there, right? But, I mean,
As we all
that
apparently agree.
what Biden keeps doing, though, is he keeps talking to him.
Right.
He doesn't
very
just keep going.
pointedly.
Yeah, if you look back at President Obama, he just wouldn't just like, it's not true. It's not true. He just kept going. Biden's actually engaging him.
We got unanimity.
Yeah, I guess watching tapes from 10 years ago, it must be totally different.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are, let's stand up for seniors. Stand up and show them. We'll not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut
I feel like he
Social Security,
engages
which
it
apparently
though
someone's gonna
well.
do,
Absolutely. I think again,
if
He
anyone
feels
tries to
comfortable
cut
with that.
Medicare,
yeah.
I'll stop them. I'll veto it.
It's a very informal crowd. He's addressing very informally, and I think that matching that energy is exactly what's necessary.
Exactly.
It's not going to be a problem.
He handles himself well in this kind of situation. I mean, he hasn't had a major gaffe yet, or I mean, few stutters here and there.
I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that.
Bull crap. No. Wait. Flip to me real quick, Andrew. There is no way you can cut the federal
I can tell
deficit. $2 trillion.
The plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the
Right.
deficit by another
$2 trillion.
$2
Our deficit
It won't
right
cut
now,
a single bit of
right,
Medicare
is about
or Social
1.8.
Security. In fact,
right? He's
we're
so
gonna
he,
extend the
or not even
Medicare
that. It's
Trust
about
Fund
like
at
$1
least 2
trillion.
decades. 'Cause that's gonna be
So
the
you're
next
telling me
effort.
you're going
How
to
do
make a
we
$1
keep us
trillion
all, right?
surplus
Well,
by
we'll
not
raise
cutting
tax
any of those
anyone
major
making under
social
400 grand,
programs,
but
right?
we'll pay for it the way
I'm
we
not saying
talked
that you
about
should
it
cut
by
those
making sure
programs,
that the wealthy and
but
big
you're going to sit
corporations
here and
pay
tell
their
the
fair
American
share.
people that you're going
Look,
to cut those,
look.
not cut those
Here's the
programs and
deal.
still cut $2 trillion out of the budget.
They're
Right,
just
you
taking
want
advantage
details.
of
You want to
the
know,
fact
wow,
I want no
how
details. What are you cutting? What are you cutting? You're going to cut $800 billion is the entire
Have your
military
back.
budget of this country.
We're already
$800
preventing
billion.
Americans from receiving surprise medical
There are
bills.
several social programs
Stopping
that are
$1
in the
billion
billions.
surprise
right?
bills per month. So
What are you going to cut? You're not cutting
It's
those
gotta
three
come from
programs.
somewhere,
It's
right?
coming from somewhere.
Seniors'
The whole
life
federal
savings
budget is $3 trillion.
by cracking down on
right?
nursing homes
Roughly.
that commit
And you're going to cut
fraud,
$2 trillion out of that.
endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans
go back
can
to
now
what he's
save
saying here.
thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money.
Oh, people are
if
being
your
pulled
flight is
up.
canceled or delayed. We reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75% from $30 to $8.
I wonder if we'll have a call to action for this point of
Look,
cutting out these kinds of fees. Whereas,
junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like
I was
the
going
one
to pull up
suffer
the
from
U.S.
Union.
debt clock
They add up to
just to
hundreds
show
of dollars
the
a month.
audience what that looked like, but
They make
we'll
it
pull it
harder for
up
you to pay
later.
your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company
Is this the
overcharges
most
you and
important
gets
issue
away
you're
with
talking
it.
about here?
Not anymore.
I mean, it
We've written
feels
the bill
like
to stop
a
it
little
all.
bit
It's called
more
the Junk
low to the
Fee
ground to common
Prevention
folk.
Act.
We have not
We're
heard,
gonna ban
yeah, because I mean, we
surprise
haven't
resort
heard
fees
one thing about
that
China.
hotels charge on
Yeah.
your
Not
bill.
one thing about
Those
China.
fees can cost you up to $90.
We heard about the
a year.
birds. We heard about the birds. Okay, so we're good. We're good, man. We good. Y'all think balloons are scary? We got spy birds, ladies and gentlemen.
Cable, internet, and cell phone companies can
Barely
charge
integrated
you
reconnaissance
more
drones. Exactly, exactly, guys.
than other providers.
I love that type of meme that's spawned out of this live stream.
We can stop service fees.
The birds are coming for you. The birds are coming for you, ladies and gentlemen.
They're
Put
toxic.
an InfoWars thing right behind me here. We're going to turn this into a conspiracy podcast here. The Supreme Court, please do not fine us $1 billion, okay? I didn't mean that actually. Context
We're kidding about the
matters here.
birds, please, please.
A piece of baggage.
The university's going to cut off our feed in about 30 seconds. All right? This is
CIA.
controversial
Play
here.
for suckers.
Birds aren't real. China did it. I don't,
You heard it here, folks.
Junk Fee Prevention Act.
All right, I'm sorry. Let's head back to the speech.
For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements for the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town.
He's talking
and
more
take
about
the
a living
same
wage
job at
here,
another burger
right?
place and make a few
You'll
bucks
see
more.
Republicans laughing at
It just
that
changed.
because there's two different
But they
perspectives
just changed
there.
it because we
Like
exposed it.
a minimum wage versus
That
living
was
wage,
part of the
right?
deal,
Not
guys.
all
Look
jobs
it
are
up.
meant to have a living
But
wage,
not anymore.
right? And so that's what
Banning those agreements so
the
companies have
Republican
to
talking
compete for
point is
workers and
here,
pay
so.
them what they're worth.
Okay.
And I must tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from
You know,
working.
we've also haven't heard about
Pass
Ukraine.
the PRO Act.
Yeah.
We haven't heard a lot about
Businesses have a
foreign
right.
policy. I mean, we're
Workers
about,
have a right
what,
to form a union.
30, 40 minutes into the speech at the
Let's
moment.
guarantee all workers
And we
have
haven't,
a
it's
living
been
wage.
that long, jeez.
Let's make sure
Time
workers
flies when you're
can
having fun,
afford
right?
to raise their
Absolutely.
families
We're about
with
40
sick
minutes
days,
into the speech, and
paid
we haven't
family
heard
medical
anything about
leave,
foreign policy.
affordable
Which
child
is
care.
super surprising considering how big of it is.
Oh, yeah. We have the
That's
war in
gonna enable
Ukraine. We have
millions of more
provocations
people
from
to go and
China.
stay at work. And let's
We'll have to see
restore
what happens
the
here.
full
It's been
child
headlines
tax
for
credit,
months and months at this
which
point.
gave tens of
So
millions of parents a
If he doesn't
breathing
mention
room.
it tonight, he'll get hit
Cut
on
child
it.
Oh,
poverty in
absolutely.
half.
I'm
I
sure
just-
I'm not saying that he
By the way,
hasn't.
we do all
We still got
these
some time in the
things.
speech.
We increase productivity. We increase economic growth. So let's finish the job and get more families access to affordable, quality housing. Let's
I mean,
get
at the
seniors
end, it'd be a very
who want to
strong
stay
note.
in their homes, the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers.
Show
looking
me the
after their loved
policy.
ones.
Show me the way
Pass
you're going to
my
pay for it.
plan So we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing God's work. These plans are fully paid for and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world. But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education
This is the universal
is not
pre-K
enough to
policy
win the
that he wants to
economic
institute
competition
here.
of the 21st century.
I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about talking
We want to have the best
about
educated workforce. Let's finish the
college
job.
eventually here in a second. And it's talking
By
about teacher
providing
wages.
access
Now,
to
if you were here in
for
Utah, there's
3
actually a lot of
quarters
bills. There's a bill in the
Studies show
Utah
that children
legislature
go to
right now to try to
preschool are
raise teacher wages.
50%
Come
more
to the
likely
Senate,
to finish high
going into
school
the
than
House.
to earn
This is the
a 2 or
Utah
4-year
legislator.
degree,
Don't confuse
no
that with
matter their
Congress.
background, where they came
But
from.
yeah,
Let's
that's a
give public
major
school
issue across
teachers
the
a
country.
raise.
So.
Absolutely. I have 3 sisters who are, well, 2 of them are teachers right now. It's a major time right here in Utah. They're
Community college. See, there you go. Ding, 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 ding. What do we have
We're
for
making
Johnny?
progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up our country. We opened our country back up. And soon we'll end the public health emergency. But that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving. children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants. And
That was a
support new
huge
vaccines
deal.
and treatments.
That was a big deal.
So
You
Congress
saw
needs to
there was a
fund these
report that
efforts to
came
keep
out that
America
showed
safe.
billions of dollars
as we
were
emerge
stolen
from this
outside of
crisis,
reimbursement programs that were instituted under
stronger.
Trump. And that,
also gotta
and
double down on
like things like
prosecuting
wage
criminals
reimbursement,
who stole
all these
relief
different
money meant
programs,
to
they
keep
saw
workers in
billions of
small
dollars
businesses
stolen. Think about that,
afloat.
billions of dollars, taxpayer money,
Yeah.
right? So that's hitting hard with a lot of Republicans, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if you guys can't already tell, we've tried to set this up a little bit in terms of the hosts
Before
here.
I came to
We have a
office,
more
remember,
left-leaning side and a more right-leaning side. That way you get more of a balanced coverage here at the UVU Review, because the most important thing here at the UVU Review is fair and balanced reporting. We hold that up to you, we hold that, and we believe in that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like our content, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and share this live stream. And share our content in general. Make sure you follow us on our social medias at UVU Review, at Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So let's go back to the speech here.
Double the statute of limitations on these crimes and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic.
This is something else
We
you
have an
see a lot
obligation to make
at
sure
the
all
State of the
people
Union
are
address.
Public
For those of
safety
you who are
depends
catching
on
up a
public
little bit
trust,
here,
as
the
all of us
feed will
know.
catch up with it.
But too often that trust is
But you'll
violated.
notice a lot of the times in the presidential box
Join
up
us
here,
tonight
they'll
are the
invite
parents.
people who
Tyree
are
Nichols.
affected by a problem they want to
Welcome.
address. And so, like for example, you saw that with President Trump. He would invite several different guests. As a matter of fact, he gave someone a Presidential Medal of Freedom out of it. This is all, like, in one sense it's genuine, but in another sense this is all political. They bring them in to
We had to bury
facilitate
Tyree
another
last
crime.
week.
Next face to the meaning
face
to
to
the
the problem.
Yep.
Right.
As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children, I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America.
Issue that he's sitting on here, and that is racial relations. Right. For
We
those of you who
know
don't know, here the UVU Review are actually
Police officers
releasing
put their
a Black
lives on
History
the line
Month
every single night and day.
issue this coming
And we
week.
know we asked them
If you're watching here at the campus. But this is a big topic point that he brings up here. It's a very hard topic to sort of bridge, right? Biden's had his fair share of scandals when it comes to race. But he's trying to address it, right? And you'll see a lot of the Republicans here, they're sort of having mixed feelings on it, because they're trying to, the talking point behind them is that we want to protect police. But, I mean, that's not necessarily
And
saying
they risk
they're
their
not
lives.
for improving
every
race
time they
relations,
put that shield
they're staying
on.
behind the police, right?
What
No matter
happened to
what
Tyree and Memphis
situation it
happens
is,
too often.
right?
We have to do better.
And you'll see that on the other side of the point,
Give
it
law
comes back to this
enforcement
idea of
the real
defunding the
training they
police,
need.
right?
Right.
You'll
Hold them
see
to
a lot of
higher
these
standards.
contentious issues tend to
Help
be
them succeed in keeping us
behind
safe.
some sort of political
We
statement.
also need more first responders
Right.
and professionals
So like
to
defund the
address growing
police,
mental health,
that
substance
automatically
abuse
puts
challenges.
Republicans and Democrats at
More
odds with each other.
resources, reduce
Right,
violent
split
crime
right down
and
the
gun
middle.
crime.
Exactly. Right.
More
And,
community
then it
intervention
ends up not even
programs.
being about the actual
More
problem, which is
investment in
race
housing,
relations.
education, and
Right.
job
It ends up
creation.
being about should we be defunding the police or should we not be?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
Can
the,
help prevent violence in the
even the
first place.
talking point itself, when we kind of look at it like this, it's,
The police departments violate
I mean, it's a
the
good thing
public
that he's
trust.
talking about it,
They
of course,
must
right?
be held accountable.
It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see, he's talking about
Support.
restricting chokeholds, things like that. We saw that with
Support
George Floyd, right?
The
That
families
came a
of
little bit
victims.
after that, right? They're talking
civil
about the
rights
local
groups and
policing,
law enforcement.
right?
I signed
And so,
an executive order. for
It'll
all
be
federal
interesting. He's
officers
probably going to win on this point either
banning
way,
chokeholds,
especially with the Democrats.
restricting no-knock warrants. And
But I
other
mean,
key elements
I
of
feel
the
like that's
George
you'll see.
Floyd Act.
Look, they're all setting up now.
Let's commit
That's a point that
ourselves to make
everyone
the
is
words of
going to
Tyler's
be
mom true.
like they're going to clap
Something
for
good
that.
must
Right,
come
because
from
at the
this.
end of the day, I don't feel as
Something
though
good.
the United States or anyone in that room in general,
And all of us.
right, is going to be like pro-racism, right? And
All
so,
of us.
but sure, you can make the argument that there are some folks in that room who hold views like that, right? But at the end of the day, everyone, most folks are trying to bridge the problem in the way they know how, right? There's just two different approaches and viewpoints on it, right? You
Both
see,
is difficult
here in
and
the state of
simple.
Utah, we have Representative
All of
Burgess
us in the
Owens,
in this
Right.
chamber.
right, who's talked
We
in
need
length about
to
this
rise
issue, and
to
he
this
talks the
moment.
conservative points on these
Can't
points,
turn away.
right? And maybe you can talk a little bit
Let's
about
do what we
the
know in our
left-leaning
hearts. We
views on
need
this
to do
point as well. But he's
Let's come
talking
together
about
to
more like
finish
just
the job on
opportunity
police
and things
reform.
like that, right?
Do
You see
something.
that point of view,
Do
and then you see
something.
on the opposite end of the view,
That was the plea of
right? There
parents
needs to be
who
more
lost their
equity
children in
and
Uvalde.
things
Right.
like
Met with
that.
every
That's
one
the
of
more of the Democratic talking
Do
point. So
something about gun violence.
honestly, that
Thank
he's talking about
God.
guns here now. But just to finish
Thank
up on
God
that
we
point,
did.
that's really where the race
Passing the most sweeping gun
issue
safety
is
law
at
in 3
when it comes to
decades.
politics, right? There are those who are viewing it from the opportunistic
includes
standpoint,
things like
and those who are viewing it from the
That the
equity
majority of
standpoint.
responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done. Join us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old
For those of you who
hero.
don't know what this means,
Brandon
we're
put his
asking for
college
water.
dreams on hold to be at his mom's
We're
side.
currently under the
Mom's
lights
side
over
when she
here,
was
so
dying from
we're just
cancer.
making sure we're hydrated. If you haven't hydrated at home, I implore you to
Brandon.
hydrate.
Yeah, please
Water is
drink
good
some
for you.
water.
Drink some water, especially if you're thirsty. All right, that's a recommendation.
Brandon now
important
works at a dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the
I
courage
guarantee you,
to
once they
act
switch the camera
and
around, you're not
wrestle
going to
a
see one
semi-automatic
Republican,
pistol away from
not
the gunman.
one standing
He'd
for that
already
point.
killed
Yeah, all
11
we hear is
people in another dance
whistling.
studio. 11.
You even hear booing there. You hear that?
He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now.
Yeah, we're
Ban
money.
them now. Once and for all. I led the fight to do that in 1994. And in 10 years, that
Bipartisan,
ban was
yeah.
law, mass
Yeah.
shootings
You'll
went
notice
down.
most Republicans
After
there are not
it
clapping for
expired,
that.
The Republican administration, mass shootings triple. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together
Now, this is
on
an interesting
immigration.
point because we're going on to
Make it
immigration
a
here.
bipartisan issue
The
once
Biden
again.
administration is actually very much to the dismay of Democrats, so you might see a few Democrats now clap at this.
know
Biden has
we now
actually
have a
maintained a
record
lot of
number
the
of
policies
personnel
of the
working to
previous
secure the
administration.
border, arresting
And so,
8,000 U.S.
thank you, Andrew.
smugglers,
God bless
thank you,
you.
man.
seizing over
We have water now.
23,000
We're going to pull a quick
pounds of
Marco
fentanyl
Rubio.
in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month.
Man's a
Unlawful
hero.
migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela
Refreshing.
has come down
yeah.
97% as a consequence of that. But
All right, there you
American
go.
border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the people's house.
Ooh, yep. See,
Oh, yeah.
abortion. What I tell you, folks.
Protect
What I tell you.
people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right.
You can see how serious he was on that point because he didn't even talk or he just looked at those people
Congress
who were
must restore the right
discourse.
that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a consular right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. Well, already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity.
Oh,
Our strength,
Here it is.
here we go. Foreign policy.
our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles?
Get to the
Would we stand for sovereignty?
military.
Would we stand for the right of people to live
Well,
free
you'll
of
notice-
tyranny? Will we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did. And together,
He's a
Sir.
hero.
we did
Thanks,
what
Andrew. We
America always
appreciate
does
you.
at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, united. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you as long as it
Here
takes.
comes China.
Our nation's working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power, and America was failing in the world.
So right now he's talking about
Anymore.
trade.
Right.
We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominated. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect
Well, you'll
advanced
notice now a
technologies
Republican is
so
standing
they
up
will
for
not
that.
be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed.
Oh, see, talking about the spy balloon now.
Rather indirectly.
And the birds. Don't forget the birds.
Committed
And
to
the
work with
birds.
China
More
so we can
dangerous of
advance
the two.
American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracies have grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping
American
up,
pride.
spending more, and doing more.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
That's how you get
Everyone's-
Senate
yeah,
open.
there you go.
The bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who
Got a
bet
chant of
against
USA
America
there.
are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never. Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation.
There we go.
We made real progress
There we go.
together. We passed a law making it easy for
We call this Utah vodka, otherwise known as water.
We passed
But yeah,
Straight from the tap.
straight
gun
from the tap.
safety law,
Very
making
fine
historic
grade
investments in mental health.
of premium
We launched
water.
the ARPA H
Premium
drive for
lukewarm
breakthrough in the fights
Lukewarm
against
water,
cancer,
yes.
Alzheimer's,
Yeah,
and
we're
diabetes,
very high
and so much
society
more.
here.
We passed the Heath Robinson Pact Act, named after the late Iraq
Oh, the
war
bird.
veterans who survived exposure
The birds!
to burn kits I shared here last year.
He keeps saying it like it sounds like bird pit, but it's burn, B-U-R-N.
I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do
I
it
agree.
together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney.
Yeah, there we go.
A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose,
Are you shouting
working to
murder?
end the stigma
Yeah.
and change laws.
Ooh.
He told us he
Ooh.
wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it.
That's interesting.
That was another one of the big talking points that the
So let's
White House
launch a major surge to
website
stop
was
fentanyl
mentioned, was the
production
opiate epidemic.
and the sale and trafficking, with more drug detection machines,
Mental health, there
inspection
you go.
cargo, stop
Ladies and
pills
gentlemen,
powder at the
I
border.
think we've proven. We know what we're talking about, right?
Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl
Focusing on
trafficking.
social media here.
Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are
There's a
struggling
song
with
called
bullying, violence, trauma,
Despacito.
we're
Sorry,
looking at
there was a
access
joke
to
that's,
healthcare to schools.
never mind, don't worry
We
about
must
it.
finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for
Personal
profit.
data.
There's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech
Ban
from
TikTok.
collecting personal data on our
Let's see if
kids
he mentions it.
and teenagers online. Ban targeted advertising to children.
I guess not.
And impose stricter
That,
limits.
for those of you who don't know,
on
that's also been a big
personal data
topic
that
across the
companies
United
collect on all of
States with TikTok and things
Third,
like that, banning it on
let's do more to
state
keep this
devices and
nation's
things like
ones
that because
truly
Chinese
sacred
companies are using
obligation
it to collect data about
Put those we
Americans.
send into
So
harm's way and
it's
care for
interesting
them
stuff.
and their families when they come home.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly
training,
surprised he
job
didn't,
placement
because
for
that is
veterans
he's
and
been
their
trying to
spouses
keep it
as they
very
come
low
to
to
return
everyone
to
else, and
civilian
that
life.
is a major
Helping
thing.
veterans
That's
afford
every
their
day
rent,
for a lot of people.
because
is
no one should be
TikTok,
homeless in
social
America,
media.
especially someone who served the country. Dennis McDonough is here of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and the daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile.
Everyone better stand for that.
It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month.
Yeah, cancer has been a big talking point in terms
They
of
just found out
that you've been talking about
Ava's
here.
beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight and she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort
You got to remember something here. Biden's coming from the point of view of he lost a son
It's been a huge
from
success.
cancer, right? And that's something that affected him emotionally and otherwise. I mean, it's his son, Bo.
I believe we
right?
can do the same
And
thing
so
with
this
cancer.
I think that's where a lot of this is stemming from, right? Especially his connection to the issue.
Let's
like
end
this,
cancer
you know
as
what I
we
mean?
know it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a
Cure
huge
some
connection there, and I'm
cancers.
glad that he is making
Once
it
and
such
for
a
all.
big point because that is, I feel like I'm connecting
There's one
with
reason
him there
why
because
we've been
that
able to
is
do all
a
these
tale
things.
that I've heard 1,000 times,
Our
and I'd
democracy
love to
itself.
stop hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
So him
It's the
talking
most
about it and
fundamental
everybody
thing of
standing
all.
up clapping
With
is one of the
democracy,
few highlights I
everything's
think so far for me.
Definitely.
without it, nothing is. The last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged, big lie, assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of
I
the
didn't even
House of
recognize him.
Representatives.
Yeah, that's
Using the
Nancy
very same
Pelosi's husband
language
there.
Insurrectionists
It's the hat.
used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th.
I'm curious what the Republicans are doing
Here
over there.
in this chamber is the man who bears the scars of that brutal attack.
So for those of you who don't know, Paul Pelosi was attacked in his home by
My friend Paul Pelosi,
um,
Paul Stanley.
a aggressive man who was looking for Nancy, as a matter of fact. And he bashed his head in with a hammer. Right? So the fact that he survived is actually pretty huge. So
But such a heinous act should have never happened. We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America.
You're going to notice that a
We
lot
have to
in his
protect
speech,
the right to
right?
vote, not
You have to
suppress
remember,
the
a large
fundamental
portion of
right.
that crowd,
Honor
you'll
the
see a lot of them
results
are sitting
election,
down.
not subvert the will of the people.
Right.
We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our
See, there you
institutions
go.
of democracy.
You have to remember something here.
We must give hate
There's
and
some folks in that
extremism
room who thought that was
in any
legitimate.
form no safe harbor.
Now, this isn't to say that we're saying what happened was right. It's just that from that point of
Democracy
view, you have to be able to bridge to those
must
people who
not
felt
be
that
a
was
partisan
legitimate.
issue.
Right.
Not to say that point
It's
of
an
view is right.
American issue.
Right. We're not taking any side here. We're just giving you points of view
Every
here.
generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have
But
been
that's the
called
thing
to
here
protect
too.
our democracy,
That's where a lot of people get
defend it,
scared.
stand
They're
up
like,
for it.
oh well, my view's not
And this is our
extremist.
moment.
Right. I just think we should have
My
overthrown
fellow
the government.
Americans,
And so
we
that's
meet
the thing
tonight
right
at a
there.
inflection point.
I mean, I don't know if you
One of those
noticed there
moments
when he said it's an
only a few
American issue. I
generations
saw a lot of
ever
people
face.
sit down from the crowd.
The direction
Yeah. So there you go.
we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we the people. We're facing the test of our time.
I feel like
We
because
have
you'll
to be
notice
the
there is
nation
some
we've always been
bipartisanship
at our
there,
best.
especially when it comes to
Optimistic,
January 6th.
hopeful,
Right, that was. I
forward-looking.
mean, here's the thing. At that point,
nation that
if there was a
embraces
lot
light
of
over
Trump
dark,
supporters in the
hope
Capitol,
over fear,
right,
unity
they
over
stopped
vision, stability
right
over
after that,
chaos.
right? Because I mean,
We have to
that
see
was a
each other
huge
not as
issue,
enemies, but as
and
fellow
quite
Americans.
frankly, it's when a lot of supporters, not
people.
loyalists, but supporters
The
of
only
Trump
nation
jumped off
in the
the
world
train.
Yeah,
built
I
on
mean
an
that is
idea.
you no longer
only
want to be
one.
associated with that. That is
Oh yeah,
you're either jumping ship or you're staying on.
yeah, and I'll be a little personal with you here. I was a big Trump supporter
Other nations
when he first ran for president. When he was
are
first in
defined
the
by
presidency.
geography,
I stopped
ethnicity.
being that right at January
We're
6th.
the only nation
Right,
based
right
on an
after
idea.
that.
Right.
Right.
You saw it. You understood.
Right, because
and-
I was never a supporter. I
Every
wouldn't
one of us
have.
is
I
created
wouldn't
equal
have
in the image of God.
defended him if he took a dump on his desk. But I
nation that
supported some of
stands
his
as a beacon to the
policies.
world.
Right. More so than I thought with Hillary
nation
Clinton, and more so than with
In a
Biden.
new age of
Right. Right.
possibilities.
But the
So I've
moment
come
that
to
happened, January 6th,
fulfill my
you're not
constitutional
assaulting
obligation
the
report in the
Democrats,
State of
nor
the
should
Union.
you be.
And
You're
here's
not
my
assaulting
report.
ideas. You are assaulting
Because the soul of
Americans.
this nation is
right.
strong.
You're breaking into
Because
our
the backbone,
Right.
the
capital.
backbone
And
of this
all
nation
over
is strong.
what?
Because the people of this
A
nation
lie.
are strong.
Right.
And that's
the
what it
State
was.
of the Union is
Right?
strong.
I mean, none of the cases went through. None of the challenges held. Right? And we have a lot of misinformation about what was true and what was not. And where are we at for it?
divided.
And so, hey, but by all means, if you disagree with what I said there, I want you to tell us.
I'm
So
not
we have
new
a
to
chat
this
going
place.
over here. Andrew will
stand here
respond to
tonight,
anything that comes
having
through with
served
that.
as long as
Let
about
us know
any
what
one
you
of you
think
have
about the
ever
whole
served.
situation there. And we've just ended.
But I've never
All
been
right,
more
ladies and gentlemen, that is the
optimistic about our future.
2023
About the future now.
State of the Union
Just
address
remember
from
who we
President
are.
Biden.
We're the
He ends
United
off there
States
talking
of
about
America,
the
and there's
security of
nothing,
democracy.
Nothing beyond our
right?
capacity.
Now, I don't know if
we do it together.
we're on the White House
God
suite at
bless
the
you
moment,
all,
but
and
there's
may
going
God
to be a
protect our
Republican
troops.
response to this,
Thank you.
right? Momentarily. So let's make sure we can pull that up right after that. But in the meantime, we can sort of commentate.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
what
I'd
do you
love to discuss it at this point.
What do you think that was the biggest takeaways from tonight?
Well, I mean, the thing that really stuck to me, and I guess I kind of was trying to find it every time he was talking, was American pride, American dream, all these points, which I feel like is talked every time we have a State of the Union. But he tied those in so carefully with each talking point that he had, which I thought was, I don't want to phrase it. I think it's definitely important because I think
Right.
a lot of people take it as have American pride and have a lot of that, and even those who don't can see the side of it, right? Can come to understand why it's important and why we're looking there.
Exactly. And honestly, I feel like he hit a lot of. He tried to reach the hand out to Republicans. He knows he's dealing with a Republican House now. He knows that he's going to have to go through people who don't really like him, who don't want to work with him, right? So he started out his speech. I mean, he talked about bipartisanship. He was talking about typical Republican talking points, like the shipping jobs overseas needs to stop, things like that. He genuinely reached his hand out. What we're going to want to take a look at is the moment the Republican response comes around. Now, we're not going to see it on the White House page because they don't want to show you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So we'll need to pull that up as soon as we can. But he was trying tonight. He was trying to get that bipartisan
That
reach
unity
over.
he's been
Yeah.
talking about.
But I mean, all of that went away the moment, right? They started talking about the debt ceiling, blaming Republicans for it, right? The gun issue, talking about abortion, eventually talking about China, right? And his action on it. So those are the talking points he's going to be hit on, right?
I mean, it was like watching a comedy show, like seeing him actually get booed by that. Clearly, he knew what he was doing. I think he very much knew it, especially the way he reacted.
Oh yeah, and now whether he will succeed from that, we'll have to take a look. Because I mean, we have our opinions here, but we cannot tell you what the majority of the country is going to say about those different points. Because at the end of the day, people are hurting right now. But they're going to take a hearing from inflation, right? That's going down, and they're going to probably say, well, things are still expensive, right? 3.4% jobs, right? But wages aren't going up, right? 3.4% unemployment rate, but wages aren't going up, though, right? And things like that. And so people are out there in a really competitive housing market. These are economic issues, right? So we're going to have to take a look to see what's going on there. I'm honestly curious to see if we can, what the Republicans' response is going to be.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be probably the most interesting thing to come out of this will be that direct response, especially with how crazy it was.
Do we have a feed on that? What am I looking for? Hey, pull like a MSNBC up. They're probably, or CNN or Fox, one of the three. I'm sure they'll be playing it. Say what? ABC? Yeah, ABC probably be good. Once we have that up. So for those of you who don't know, or if this is your first time watching a State of the Union address, so usually the president in power, right, whether they're Republican or Democrat, will give a State of the Union address, right? They'll say how they feel. Then the party opposite will then give a speech. It's usually a lot shorter, right? Their response to the speech, right? And it's basically all about seeing what they will do in that front. So, like, what they will say about Biden, touting his economic accomplishments, touting about infrastructure, talking about the different legislative action he wants to go through, things like that. That is what you're going to have to be taking a look at as soon as we do, right?
Do you expect him to pick apart more of the victory lap that he did, or the actual talking points that came later on? Mm-hmm. What do you expect?
Exactly. Sorry, what was that? Hold on. We were just pulling up the feed on our headpieces here. Yes, we're so savvy over here, tech savvy, that we have headpieces here. They're ear pods, actually, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I was asking if it matters whether or not they will be actually breaking apart the victory lap that he did. Kind of criticizing that, or if they will just jump straight into the talking points later on.
Well, you'll notice at the beginning when he was trying to talk Republican points, you'll notice that a lot of Republicans had standing up. Because again, we were talking about this at the top of the hour. We were talking about, hey, there's a lot of politics when it comes to either standing up, clapping, or whatever. Right? They were looking at McCarthy to see what he did. Right. But you'll hear a lot of those people yelling in the background there. Right. There was a lot of. You'll have to remember, this is a very tough edge Republican Party. This is a very tough edge Democratic Party. Right. Both of these people do not like each other. They don't want to give either one of them victory. Right. The moment a Republican House passes a bill, they're going to send it over to the Senate. The Senate's not going to give a crap. And the moment the Senate passes something and sends it to the House, if it's not something Republicans like, they're not going to pass it. Right. No, I mean, you have gridlock at the moment. And so maybe Biden was trying to pull him together. Maybe he was. Maybe he wants to try to get something he wants done passed. Right. And he's just using this as a tactic.
Right. Used a few call of actions. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it, but I felt the presence behind the president every time he was talking. McCarthy, Speaker of the House. Every time had eyes locked on his little tie.
Republicans now watching after that moment. We are watching the president
the House every time, every talking point he made, I felt like
that was something
that impact
in recent times. John Carl, and
you'll see a lot of body language goes into these kind of things. I'll never forget Paul Ryan grinning behind Trump when Trump was like, "The time for partisan bickering is over," and Paul Ryan just started going like,
I remember that. I remember watching clips of that on the internet. Like, and going, wow.
I mean, those two people, Kamala Harris there, you see him in the ABC feed here. You'll see that they're talking a lot about
fascinating because
you'll see that
McCarthy
they have a
earlier
lot of
today
influence. I mean, Nancy
publicly
Pelosi
told his
famously
members,
ripped up
we have a
Trump's
code of
speech
ethics in the
at
House.
his last State of
We
the
have a
Union
way to
address.
behave.
Every time that
Made it
happens,
clear
New
respect
State
for the
Union, I
president.
see that
He didn't
circulate.
wanna
It,
see
I'm like,
it, it seems like each State of the Union gets crazier and crazier, right? Like, I mean, it started. I mean, here's the thing: we can't say that all things like this. Crazy stuff's happened. We haven't seen the Sergeant at Arms pick up the house mace and hit somebody with it. That has happened before, right? And so, for those of you who don't know what the house mace is, it's a beautiful 20-pound thing of silver with an eagle right on top, sterling silver that beats the crap out of people who are being a little rowdy, right? And that has happened before. People have presented the mace. It's a little shady on whether or not it's been used or not, but there is records of it being presented at members of Congress. But neither here nor there.
From the Republicans,
we are seeing a little bit more of a.
We do know that entitlements have been part of the discussion long term, though, about where the country can potentially save money. Democrats say that's a non-starter. I do want to bring in.
So is McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy said, "Look."
Sorry, ABC is talking a little bit here about Social Security. So the interesting thing, I feel like that was also interesting. That was probably the biggest contention in this whole thing. Biden says that Republican wanted to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Right. Here's the problem, though. Both of them are saying, let's talk about.
Perhaps in the future along.
Let's talk a little bit about this for a second. They both said they want to cut the deficit.
Donna Brazil and Chris
How you
Christie
gonna do
always
it?
grade the performance.
Here's the thing: no representative of Congress, no president is going to sit and run for president saying, "I'm going to cut the budget. I'm going to cut Social Security. I'm going to cut Medicare. I'm going to cut Medicaid. I'm going to cut the military. I'm going to cut it all." You know why? You wouldn't get elected. And the reason is because it's not sexy to say, "I'm going to cut the program that benefits you." Right? How do you get elected? I'm going to increase the funding to the military. I'm going to increase the funding for Medicaid. I'm going to increase the funding for Social Security. It's not, sure, cutting the deficit is a great punchline, right? Let's pay off the debt is a great punchline.
No, send ripples.
Yeah, political talking point.
But I thought overall, I give him high marks.
Last 10
And Donna,
presidents have talked about cutting the
this
deficit.
country
Guess what?
are
It's not happened
questioning at
once.
home whether
The only
or
time
not,
it did was under Bill
President
Clinton.
Biden is going to run for a second term.
The
It
last
is part
time
of the
America was in a
conversation
surplus
in this
was
country.
under Bill
Given
Clinton.
what you saw tonight,
Oh, hello
the
there.
energy that he
My
brought
name
to
is
this
Bill
address,
Clinton. Now, I know
what do
you may
make
not
of
know
the
me for
potential
that.
he will
I
declare
might
that
be
he's
known
gonna run
for
a
something
second term?
else. I won't name names, but Monica Lewinsky. But the problem is, I was the last one who cut the deficit and made a surplus.
The last time, yeah, it was a Clinton. Right?
Hello there. Yes.
Well, I mean, I think one of the really interesting parts about the whole speech and everything, like specifically on that, is he gave details and numbers for so many of his talking points, but when it came to things like this and that, the deficit, it
Donna
feels
Brazil,
like
as always, we appreciate
he
it.
was
Chris
a little
Christie,
sparse on
former
details.
governor of New Jersey,
That,
ABC News
a lot
analyst.
of
Chris, what did you
wages
make of
and
what you heard
everything
tonight?
like that. And I definitely felt that. I heard it, I visualized it, but like, this is something he's deciding not to specify on yet. Because it doesn't feel as, like you said, it's not something that's super valuable. It's not something you can just cut, move around, and it'll be fine.
That he announced
Exactly.
throughout this
I mean, yeah, you could tell. I mean, we've got Chris Christie here basically talking a little bit about that right
turn
now.
over most of your money
Right,
to us.
and he's
We
sort
know
of
how
giving
to
the
spend it
conservative
better than you
talking
do.
point to that.
And
With,
so,
I think
and I'm
that's
going to
not
give you
Maxine
this and
Waters.
give you
That's,
that and give you that.
I can't remember her name, but I know who she is.
Nobody
But
gives anybody anything. It's got
it's
to be
interesting
paid
to see.
for.
We'll
either
have to
by
see what the Republican
increasing
response to this
deficits,
was. It's going to be about a
higher taxes, or
10-minute
both.
speech
And I
or
was
so.
struck
They're going to have it in
by
like a little
what
bar
all the
or
things he
somewhere.
wants to give away
They make
to
it seem
people.
as so as like
to
they hold the
promise them,
majority as
let me
possible.
tell you,
Remember,
this
this
is
is
definitely a
political.
politician running
Remember,
for
folks at
re-election.
home, look at
And
me.
secondly, I thought
Listen
there was
to
a
me.
moment of
This is
incredible
political.
hypocrisy.
They're trying to sell
When
their
the
vision to
president
you,
talked
right?
about
Politics is a lot
pounded
like marketing,
on
but
the
instead of selling
pharmaceutical
products, you're selling bull
Has
crap.
pounded
That's
and
all you're
pounded
doing.
on the
That's all it
pharmaceutical
is.
industry.
You
And then
are being
immediately
sold
after
an
that,
idea that
talked
you
about how we
are meant to
survived
believe
the
in,
COVID
right?
pandemic
So
because of the
look at this. This is
innovation
an entire stage
that
play.
brought us
Right?
vaccines.
They're
Well,
looking
where
at you
the
and they're
heck does he
asking,
think that
okay,
innovation came
what do
from?
you care about?
It
What is
came
it that we
from
can tell
billions
you
of
that will
dollars
make you support
in
us?
private
Right?
investment
Because remember,
made
accompanied by
this man
the
right here,
Pfizer
President Biden,
Corporation
he is wanting to
in
run
the
again in
development of
2024,
that
and he is
technology
using this
over the
opportunity
course of
to tell you,
decades
this
that was
is what I've
being able to be
accomplished.
brought to
I've
bear
accomplished
to be able
inflation
to
going
slow
down. I've
the
accomplished
death
this.
rate,
This is what he's
the
doing,
death toll,
right? Now,
and
here
the
in a second,
hospitalization toll
right?
Right.
You're
that
going to
was
hear the
going on in
Republicans.
this
Now,
country because of the COVID-19 virus.
it's sad to say,
Yet,
but
he wants to take
that is
money
why our
away
politics does
from
not want
them
to give the other
pay
side a
for,
victory.
you know,
Right, 'cause
his
they're giving them a
laundry list
talking
of
point.
giveaways.
Right.
You
and
will give them a
social
talking
programs.
point
And he wants
for
to
the next
criticize
election.
the pharmaceutical
Tell them,
industry,
hey,
which are the people,
I did
not
this.
the government.
I did that.
Those
I made
industries
that happen.
Developed the technology.
That is
to
what
be
you're
able
dealing
to
with
cure
here.
COVID-19.
They're filling
That
the
was a
airs.
breathtaking
They
moment
really,
of
and I think
hypocrisy.
that's one of the things is like
and
you
one
have to
that
do your
I
hey
think will
folks
be
at home,
discussed a
do your
lot in
research,
the
do
industry
your own
going
research.
forward.
Don't
Go to
listen
ballot
just the
topics.
You
airs.
know, you think
right?
it's very clear.
Go to places where you.
This is not
there's no doubt
sponsored
about it. Look,
at all.
any
But if you want to
politician who's
sponsor us,
giving away
please,
everything,
we
he was
need
essentially
money.
emptying
Okay,
his
for all you
pockets,
Russian
my
oligarchs, no, I'm just
pockets,
joking.
and your
No,
pockets,
no.
David,
If you're Russian,
to
we
give
do not
away
want
everything
money
he
from you.
possibly could
Thank you very
to the
much.
people he's
But
gonna
if you're Hillary
vote
Clinton,
for
my
for
Twitter just
in
blew
the
up.
next
Your
2
Twitter blew
years.
up.
That's
Oh
a
my
guy
gosh.
who is running
This is a
for
joke.
re-election.
Don't worry about it.
There's
It's
no question
fine.
in my mind about it.
But yeah.
He wants to stay for
This is the
another
main thing
4
you have
years
to be
beyond the
looking
4
at
he's
here.
been given,
Right.
and he has already said
keep
in his
this in
own.
mind, too.
This was the warm-up
The Republicans
for
about-
the announcement that he's running for
Lord knows
re-election.
Perhaps that's
whenever
the
they're
one
done,
point I can
like,
get you and Donna to agree on.
shooting
See, I
up
work
over
for
here.
consensus here. At
They're
least
going to be
on
telling you,
one point.
don't believe
Chris
a word
and Donna,
Biden
we
said.
thank you as always,
You know
as
why?
President Biden
Because
continues
he is the
to
devil
work the room
himself.
inside this
Right?
chamber.
That
I
is
wanna
how
go back
a
to Rachel Scott
response
tonight
goes
because
for, right? That's
Mary
what Democrats
was
did with
talking
Trump.
earlier about
That's
the
what the
level of energy
Republicans
President
did with
Biden brought,
Obama.
to
So
the speech
forth,
here
right?
in
That's
the
how it's going
chamber.
to work.
There
This
were
is
trying to-
all a
times and
show.
moments we're looking
Yeah,
right
be
now.
louder than one
Vice
another.
President
Be
Kamala
louder
Harris,
than one another.
I mean, we
Exactly.
saw that,
Gentleman Doug
of course,
Emhoff
with the
there,
State of the Union itself.
also with
People
Speaker
booing,
McCarthy.
shouting. They
Speaker
wanted to be
McCarthy,
louder
Rachel
than the
at times,
president's big
tested
talking
himself
points
up
there.
there
Make
in
more.
this new role, given the fact that he
Andrew,
wanted
do we
to
have any
unify the Republican Party in
chat
that chamber.
points in there? By the way, if you guys have
Exactly,
questions,
David, and
just
this
let
is
us
just
know.
the
Feel free to
reality
give
that
us
Speaker
comments
Kevin
and stuff
McCarthy
like
is
that.
faced with. He
Yeah,
is
please
faced
tell
with
us we're
a
wrong.
very
Yeah.
thin,
By all
very
means, tell us what you
narrow
think. Tell us.
Republican
By the way,
majority in the
if you haven't
House.
already, make sure
He's
you
also
like
faced
and
with different
subscribe to our
fractions of the
YouTube
Republican
channel,
Party,
and make sure
he
you
wanted
follow us
tonight to
at
remain
UVU
civil.
Review
He wanted
on
members
Instagram
of
and
his
Twitter and on
conference to
Facebook.
remain
We have
respectful
all
to the
different kinds
President
of
the
social
United
media
States.
here,
I was told by sources
and
in
we
a
would love to
closed-door
hear your
meeting
support and
earlier. He
suggestions. So
urged
please
his
make sure you
party
go
to
ahead and do
continue
that.
being
It would
cordial
mean a
as
lot
the
to us,
President
and it
gave
means
this
you like these
address
kind of
tonight.
things.
But
So if you
as
like
we
coverage
saw
like this, keep
this play
making
out
sure you
here in
tell
the
us.
chamber, there were
And
certain
that way
moments
we will
where
keep
things
doing
did
them.
take a
And
turn,
so
where you had
we'll keep making
Republicans
sure that happens.
calling the
We
President
love
of the
talking
United
about
States
letting.
a liar
We love
on
letting
certain
people
issues
know
where
what
they
we
got
think
up
and
and
what
pointed
should be
fingers
talked about.
Yeah, we
at the
enjoyed this. I
president
mean,
before
honestly,
then
this is
sitting
it's
down.
a
And
time to
this
sort
just
of get together
underscores
and
the
sort of
immense
talk about
amount
these
of
issues as a
challenges
university,
ahead for
as a
Speaker
community,
McCarthy
as a country.
when it comes to
And so
unifying his own party.
I'm looking
David.
forward to what
I
this
want to
brings
bring
up
Terry
here.
Moran,
And honestly,
who's
I hope
watching
you've been
along with
enjoying
us
the
here.
State of the
You
Union
heard
as
the
well.
president tonight
Like I said, if
talk
you have any
about
suggestions for us in the
unemployment.
future,
Obviously,
please
that
let us know,
3.4%
and we'll make
unemployment
those
rate in the
happen.
last couple of days that
Absolutely,
came
yeah.
out. That's the lowest in 69.
Now,
800,000 manufacturing
a lot of
jobs.
these,
more than 10 million jobs since
You
he
know,
began
look
his
what
term.
Stephan,
But Terry, there was an acknowledgement
but you know who I'm talking about
of
here.
the people that he called
See?
invisible. That's a word we've heard from previous
Can the,
administrations, but it was
folks
an
at home
acknowledgement
hear the audio
that
from the
there are
ABC
many
broadcast?
Americans who simply don't feel these numbers, these apparent positive numbers. We know we're still dealing with inflation. It's eased somewhat, but the numbers that President Biden pointing to tonight,
there
there
you
did
go.
seem to be acknowledgement on his part that not
Here,
everyone
could you mute the
is
ABC
enjoying
just
these
real quick?
numbers.
Absolutely, and our
Listen
ABC
to this. Listen to this. The problem is, right, all this stuff that was just talked about, 3.4% unemployment. We were just talking about this. Inflation going down, right? But guess what? It went up by a lot. Sure, you can say that, but you're sending out a fishing hook, right? You're framing it. You're framing the argument. Americans aren't feeling that, right? I mean, all you guys at home, imagine going home, right? Do you feel you're better off financially than you were 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right? I mean, we have a low unemployment rate right now, but have your wages gone up, right? We have lower inflation, but what was it before the pandemic, right? Gas prices have gone down, but what were they before they went up?
Right, exactly,
right?
yeah. No,
Americans are paying more out of pocket for a bunch of utilities than they were, right? And that was a big talking point for Republicans during the midterm elections. And so the problem is that Republicans just picked bad candidates during the midterms, and that's why they didn't see a lot of that big red wave that was supposed to happen.
Right.
And so that's what you're looking at here. That is what you're seeing. And really, that is what is going to determine the response to this, is whether or not people are seeing the changes that Biden is touting.
Yeah. Which kind of to bounce off that point, I think what's really important, again, we were talking about doing your own research and everything like that, is especially when you're not as aware, especially like myself, for instance, I'm of the newer rising generation, right? We both are. We're both. There's a lot of stuff 10 years ago.
We are Zoomers.
We are Zoomers.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
10 years ago, we had no idea what was going on. So we have no compare contrast. We have to do the research, look into it, and understand it, right? And I don't know. What's your opinion on that? How?
Well, even with just regular pricing. I mean, I've seen the prices of my books go up. Yeah. I've seen the prices of my gas go up to get into school. I've seen the prices of my tuition, my fees, right, have gone up, right?
Yeah.
And it's all from the pandemic, and it's all from these economic policies here, right? The moment Biden came into office, what'd he do? Got rid of the Keystone Pipeline. I mean, 30-something thousand jobs, people out of work, right?
Not to mention it was like 2 years old.
And see, there you go. You said we had a comment going over there, Andrew?
It's just Julie saying good job.
Oh, that's my mom.
Thank you, Julie Matthews' mom.
We appreciate it, Mama. God bless you. See, my mom is watching back at home. But yeah, we appreciate her. But that's the stuff you're feeling. I mean, ask Americans out there who are in their 50s, in their 60s, getting ready to retire, how are your retirement accounts doing? Right? Have they done well?
How are you feeling? Yeah, you
right?
got to.
I mean, like, the retirement accounts have taken a hit. Americans don't feel, right? Whether it's true or not that they're better off, right? Doesn't matter, but they don't feel as though they are. Now, you can make a bunch of arguments and say, well, you are better off, and that might be factual. But this is a political game, right? And it's sad to say the truth doesn't always matter in a political game, right?
Unfortunately,
but
yeah.
Let's address the truth, right? Your wages haven't gone up. Right. So, and that's something that Biden did not talk about in this speech tonight. And so we'll have to take a look at that. I mean, honestly, the polls coming out after this should be interesting, whether it was a good thing for Biden or if it was a bad thing for Biden.
Right. Because he's not been in a great standings as of late. So I think.
Well, while we're waiting for the Republican response here, you got to remember, 2 Republicans have announced for president officially. There are several who are thinking about it. Right. First and foremost, President Trump. We can't deny. He has announced for president. He's running again in 2024. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, let me tell you, my presidential campaign will be huge. Everybody says it. Nobody does not say that. Okay, even the Democrats, who have been very mean to me. He's running for president, right? Nikki Haley, right?
We have made it out the door.
Say what, Andrew?
We have made it out the door.
Yeah, Biden has gone out the door now. And yeah, now we're just waiting for the Republican response to that thing.
Briefing room,
and so,
a new role, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, newly elected.
But
she
yeah,
will deliver
no,
the
I
Republican
know
response
exactly
here
what
in
you're
just a
saying.
moment, and we'll have the roundtable to weigh
I did not know
in
Sarah
on how she performs as well.
Whoa, wait, that's huge. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders is giving the Republican response. I did not know she is becoming governor. That's actually really cool. Governor of Arkansas, I'd say. We were just making fun of Arkansas at the top of the hour. Arkansas, we love you. Arkansas. How, if you're from Arkansas, how do you say it? It's Arkansas.
Arkansas.
No. Anyways, that's going to be interesting. Okay, I did not know Sarah Huckabee Sanders was going to be giving this response. Let me tell you something. She is going to rip into him, right?
Really now?
Here's the thing. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was the former press secretary for Trump.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
She's the person who replaced Sean Spicer, or I was going to make a joke there, but I forgot the guy's name. But anyways, Sean Spicer, he was the first press secretary for Trump. And then eventually he resigned, and then Sarah Huckabee Sanders became the press secretary. She is vicious. She knows how to handle reporters, right? Now, to me, that sounds like this is going to be a vicious response, just from the choice of person who's giving the response.
Right.
That actually might be interesting, because every time someone gets... I mean, here's the thing. Parties are very strategic. Back in 2006, right, or no, 2004, when John Kerry was running against George W. Bush, right, one of the speakers of the Democratic National Committee was then State Senator Barack Obama, right? State Senator of Illinois. He was running for the Senate in Illinois, right? Then again, he ran for president in 2008, and he won, right? These kind of plans are very strategic. I wonder if Sarah Huckabee Sanders will try to propel herself after this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's the front face of it right now. And do you? No, I'm not. I don't know as much as I like about the responses that usually come out after these things. How much is it just purely her insight and speech that will be coming out of this, or is this part of the House itself will have a?
Well, from what I know, most of the time it's a prepared speech, right? But they'll make adjustments based on what was inside of the.
Okay, so it is a prepared speech.
Right. It was semi-prepared. And with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she might insert a few things there. So it'll be interesting to see what she has to say. I feel like she will be addressing those economic points. It was the biggest part of Biden's speech. He was trying to tout his economic accomplishments, so that's the first thing she's going to talk about. Right? She's going to talk about the foreign affairs. She's going to talk about Russia. She's going to talk about Ukraine. She's going to blame Biden for Ukraine. She's going to blame him for allowing China to send over a spy balloon. And she's going to say, and the birds. And the birds, of course, we cannot forget the birds. They've been sending so many birds to our country. Okay, so many birds, let me tell you. I promise, as President of the United States, we're going to take care of those birds. Those birds who have sent so many bird poos on top of my vehicle, my beautiful Chevrolet, it's not Chevrolet, my Corvette. How dare you?
I feel like I need to prepare a bingo card for this one, right?
Joe just, bingo card. Birds, that's the top of the thing. For those of you who are watching at home and have been playing bingo with us, yes, if you have gotten birds, if you had birds on your thing, congratulations, you have now bingoed your bingo card. God bless you.
You can redeem your points by subscribing to our YouTube channel and
liking it, and following all of our social media. Andrew, put our social media in the chat right now. Thank you very much. You just tell me no.
We are a united, unaggressive.
Wait, toss that back. Toss it back. Oh, okay. We're having fun here, ladies and gentlemen, in the studio.
No, I mean, like, did you see how cool that was?
You nearly shot Wyatt. What the heck, man?
Live on TV.
Live on television. We love this. We haven't had a slip up yet, I don't think. Like, in terms of, like, putting our foot in our mouths. We need to come up with, like a random thing.
That's true. Hey, say something. Oh, we're going up?
Are they? Well, yeah, give it a second. They'll tell you. No. We're waiting. So for those of you who are watching at home, we're currently waiting for the. Oh, wait a minute! Here, pull it up. Pull it up.
In that briefing room, but again, now she is Sarah Sanders, governor.
That's right.
Not spokesperson for Donald Trump.
Youngest woman governor in the country and a mother as well. Let's listen to Governor Sanders.
That was.
I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden. From out-of-control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China, Biden and the Democrats have failed you. They know it, and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control, but that's not who we are. America is the greatest country the world has ever known because we're the freest country the world has ever known, with a people who are strong and resilient. 5 months ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. It was a hard time for our family, particularly our kids, Scarlett, Huck, and George. But we kept our faith and persevered. Thanks to exceptional doctors here in Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God, I am cancer-free. Through it all, I couldn't help but think about my mom. She was 20 years old and in her first year of marriage when she was diagnosed with spinal cancer. The doctors told her she might not live, and if she did live, they said she'd never walk again. And if she did walk, she'd definitely never have children. The daughter she was told she'd never have was just sworn in as the new governor of Arkansas and is speaking to you tonight. Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us, but faith propels us to charge boldly ahead. We can't stand still in the face of great challenges. You and I were put on this earth for such a time as this, to charge boldly ahead. I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom, he's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history. I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to love one another or our great country. Whether Joe Biden believes this madness or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy. It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership. Upon taking office just a few weeks ago, I signed executive orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools, eliminate the use of derogatory term Latinx in our government, repealed COVID orders, and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders, but in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy. President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record, the most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy, fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace. But over the last 2 years, Democrats destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history. As a mom, my heart breaks for every parent who has lost a son or daughter to addiction. 100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses, largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border. Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives. And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear. Beyond our border, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran, President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world at risk. And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary, is dangerous and unacceptable. President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people. He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief. And while you reap the consequences of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day. Most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace. But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war we didn't start and never wanted to fight. Every day we are told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols, all while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech. That's not normal. It's crazy, and it's wrong. Make no mistake, Republicans will not surrender this fight. We will lead with courage and do what's right, not what's politically correct or convenient. Republicans believe in an America where strong families thrive in safe communities, where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising, where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child. These are the principles Republican governors are fighting for, and in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration accountable. Down the street from where I sit is my alma mater, Little Rock Central High. As a student there, I will never forget watching my dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, and President Bill Clinton hold the doors open to the Little Rock Nine. Doors that 40 years earlier had been closed to them because they were Black. Today, those children once barred from the schoolhouse are now heroes memorialized in bronze at our State House. I'm proud of the progress our country has made, and I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day. Tomorrow, I will unveil an education package that will be the most far-reaching, bold, conservative education reform in the country. My plan empowers parents with real choices, improves literacy and career readiness, and helps put a good teacher in every classroom by increasing their starting salary from one of the lowest to one of the highest in the nation. Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty. We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, and put students on a path to success. It's time for a new generation to lead. This is our moment. This is our opportunity. A new generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts, forged by the triumph of the Cold War and the tragedy of 9/11. A generation brimming with passion and new ideas to solve age-old problems. A generation moored to our deepest values and oldest traditions, yet unafraid to challenge the present order and find a better way forward. If we seize this moment together, America can once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave. During my 2.5 years at the White House, I traveled on every foreign trip with the president. A trip I will never forget was on December 25th of 2018. My husband Brian and I had just cleaned up wrapping paper that was shoved into every corner of our house, thanks to our 3 kids. When I had to walk out on my own family's Christmas, unable to tell them where I was going that night, because the place I'd be traveling was so dangerous, they didn't want anybody to know that the president was going to be on the ground, even for a few hours. We boarded Air Force One in complete and total darkness. There were no lights on the plane, no lights on the runway. Our phones and computers shut down and turned in. We were going completely off the grid. Nearly 12 hours later, in the pitch black of night, we landed in the war-torn part of Western Iraq. It was again a similar scene. No lights on the plane, no lights on the runway. The only thing you could see was coming from about a mile away in a dining hall where hundreds of troops who were in the fight against ISIS had gathered expecting to celebrate Christmas with senior military leadership from around the region. They had absolutely no idea that the president and first lady were about to walk into that room. And when they did, it was a sight and a scene and a sound I hope I never forget. The room erupted. Men and women from every race, religion, and region, every political party, every demographic you can imagine, started chanting in perfect unison over and over and over again, USA, USA, USA. It was an absolutely perfect picture of what makes our country great. One of the young soldiers yelled from the back, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the president said, "And son, I'm here because of you." Shortly after, that young soldier came up to me. He said, "Sarah, you have a tough job." I told him, "What I do is nothing. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job." And in a moment that I know I'll cherish for the rest of my life, that soldier reached up and he pulled the Brave Rifles patch he wore on his shoulder, and he placed it into my hand, a sign of ultimate respect. And he said, "Sarah, we are in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless, I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free. That young man and everyone who has served before him, all of those who serve alongside him, and the thousands we know who will be called upon to serve after him, deserve to know they have a country and a community back home doing our part in the fight for freedom. America is great because we are free. But today, our freedom is under attack, and the America we love is in danger. President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders are stepping up, not to be caretakers of the status quo, but to be change makers for the American people. We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands. And with God as our witness, we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die. Thank you. God bless you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That is the Republican response to the State of the Union. What did I tell you? She came out swinging.
Yeah, no,
She came out swinging.
I was expecting a lot of things the moment she started talking, and I took a lot into what you said into definite consideration. But that was a baseball bat right out.
Because she automatically pointed to that is not the case.
Right.
She automatically said, "Hey, this is not what Americans are feeling. This is not what Americans are dealing with."
Yeah, shut down everything he said there. That was just a very direct opening.
She was making the Republican case against Biden, and you can tell that is a campaign speech.
Yeah,
that is a big campaign speech, right? I don't think Huckabee will be announcing for president, right, at all. She just barely was elected as Arkansas governor, right? And so that's not going to be, that's not going to be, she's not going to announce for that. But she's definitely making the case for Republicans in 2024 because people are starting to announce for president.
Yeah.
Democrats aren't entirely satisfied with Biden. You have to remember, he has a approval rating of nearly 40%, right? Just about the same as Trump. And so at this point, I mean, she talked about China. She talked about the border. She's talking about serving the people. Biden wanting more government control. She's talking about all these things. And I think the most poignant thing that she could have done there was two things. One, she pointed out that she was a woman, the first woman who's running her state.
Right.
She also pointed out that she was the youngest governor currently elected in the state of Arkansas, or in the entire United States, compared to the oldest president of the United States.
Right. She knew exactly what she was talking about.
She knew
what points she wants to hit.
And she's pulling out that identity politics that Democrats tend to point to. They say that their party's more diverse. She just pointed out what she is, right? So that is, I mean, she came out swinging. And honestly, that might, here's the thing. Not as many people watch the response as they do the State of the Union.
Right, absolutely.
Right? But that is definitely going to be a response that I think is replayed over and over and over again. A lot of people are going to be listening to that. And she even talked about cancer.
Yes.
The thing you were talking about.
No, for sure. I mean,
I saw that over here. I'm reading the captions. I'm reading the captions on my end. I saw
For those of you who didn't hear that, Andrew was saying he was reading the captions on his side of things. But yeah, Biden was trying to make the case tonight for his second term. Sanders was Huckabee Sanders was making the case for Republicans in 2024. These were both political speeches. They were trying to make the case for themselves, right? Biden was touting his economic accomplishments, and then Sarah Huckabee Sanders was trying to tear those down and trying to give a different vision to the American people. And so it's honestly interesting.
It was
interesting.
Very interesting, especially a lot of the points that she made. I mean, I was expecting her to promote a lot of different bills and a lot of different things that she herself was pushing, but she just was sticking to that very narrative story that she was attempting to tell.
She was promoting the stuff that she was doing in her state. She signed an executive order apparently banning racism.
Right.
Good for her. There's more to it than just signing an executive order on that. But, well, I think she was mainly doing it for critical race theory. I think that's what she was meaning. That's more of a Republican talking point when it came to that. What I found interesting was at the end when she was talking about her trip to Iraq.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
She wasn't talking about Biden there. She was talking about President Trump, right? And she's comparing and contrasting that visit, right, with like Biden's foreign policy, talking about, look what happened in Afghanistan with Biden. Look what is happening now with China and Russia, right? Whilst Biden was saying, we have helped the Ukrainians. We've made sure they're there. Sarah Huckabee Sanders says, is our foreign policy better than what it was 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so, honestly, ladies and gentlemen at home, I hope you have enjoyed this live stream. Wyatt, is there anything else you'd like to add? Just like any final thoughts?
Final thoughts are I'm really interested to see where this leads. Absolutely. I think the next 3 or 4 days, there's going to be article, everything, talking about every little breaking apart pieces, and I want to consume as much as I can.
Our newspaper.
Absolutely, yeah. Look at our UVUreview.com. We should have some hopefully exciting stuff talking about what happened tonight.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap it up for our coverage tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you have, if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on our social medias at UVU Review. We also have podcasts. We have our online newspaper. We have broadcasts like these. So make sure you... Podcast broadcasts. Yeah, we have different programs that we do. So if you like our content, make sure you support us. Visit our website, www.uvureview.com, and you can find more articles there and more content there. But having said all that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This has been the UVU Review coverage of the 2023 State of the Union Address. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.